Hello everybody, Ace Whale, Cheyenne Tel Squeeth, Luke's Teetlam Slolly Tel Wilmick Squeeth, Talitzel Qua Squat. So my name is Cheyenne. My traditional name is Luke's Teetlam Slolly, which is Helcamelum, and it translates to always singing woman. That name was gifted to me by my uncle in the Sweat Lodge. And my family comes from Squaw First Nation. I'm really excited to introduce the first in a series of tutorials where I'm going to be teaching folks how to create beaded earrings. So I'm really excited about this. I am creating some starter kits. I am going to have about 15 available, but I'm hoping to keep this going. If it's successful, I'm going to keep the ball rolling and do it as many times as is needed and wanted. So in this video, I'm just going to explain and give some context as to what's in the starter kit. When you receive the starter kits, it's just going to look like a bunch of items if you're not familiar with beadwork. And to get you really going with beadwork, I want you to take off. And with that, you're going to need some knowledge around what the items are that you're going to need and to continue to use. And knowing what they are is very important. I did learn how to do beadwork when I was a lot younger with my mom. I did loom work and different kind of beaded earrings, but flat stitch is something that I more recently took up in the last couple of years. And it was difficult as a self-taught artist to know exactly what supplies that you're going to need. So when I first started off, I wasn't always using the greatest supplies, and I just didn't know what it was that I needed. And so having a list of items is going to be really helpful for you guys to start out as new artists. And I really want people who are buying these starter kits and people who I'm helping to start off with beadwork to be able to continue. And it can be really discouraging if you don't have the right supplies. It can be frustrating. And so I want everyone to have a great experience for their first experience with beadwork. So I'm just going to go through the list of items that will be included in your starter kits and explain what they are and what the difference is between certain items that are going to be in your beading kit versus something else that you might find along the way that's not the right thing. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is the type of thread that you're going to use. So I am going to have smaller bobbins of size D Nymo thread. So this is bonded Nymo thread. There's a difference between bonded thread and any old Nymo thread. So I had originally purchased the smaller bobbins, and then as you continue on with your beadwork, you realize, okay, I need something bigger, I need to buy it in bulk. So I purchased a bigger cone of thread, and it turns out that the thread wasn't bonded, and it was really tangly, and it was hard to use, and it's frustrating when you're trying to do your beadwork and your thread is constantly knotting. So in that case, if you do have access to a lot of thread that is not bonded, that's okay too. You can use wax to condition your thread, but what will be included in the starter kits is the bonded thread, and I really recommend it moving forward as an artist. When you're buying thread, make sure that it's the kind that's bonded, because it'll make the job so much easier and it'll be so much more enjoyable. So that's the first thing I'm going to recommend as an artist starting out. So the second thing that I'm going to talk about is the kind of needles that will be included in the starter kits. So there's two different kinds of needles that I use for the flat stitch technique. So I'm going to be teaching how to do the 2 needle technique. So the 2 needles, I use 2 different kind of needles. So I use the shorter needles. These are the John James short beading needles. They're size 10. This is what I use to tack the beadwork down, which you'll learn further along in the tutorials. And then I also use the gold eye long beading needles. These are what I use to scoop up my beads. So you'll have one thread for stringing your beads, and then the other thread is what you use to tack it down. So for stringing the beads, I use the gold eye long beading needles. And then for tacking them down, I use the short needles. So I'm not going to include whole packs of needles in everybody's starter kit, but I'll definitely put a couple of each, maybe 3 or 4, depending on, we'll see how it all goes in the process. Yeah, so those are the kind of needles that I'm recommending. Those are the kind that I use. I've used like the Deer brand and they always seemed to break on me. I'm not sure, I haven't played around with needles, but those are the needles that work for me and those are the needles that I always buy. So definitely recommend those. The other thing when you're starting out that can be, something that I didn't know, there's no list that's out there. So I'm glad to be putting this out there for new artists that are starting out, because it can be really frustrating not knowing what things you need to have to start out. So this is Pellin. This is very important. So this is what we're beading on. This is the material that we're going to be beading on. So the kind of Pellin that you'll need for this type of flat stitch beadwork is Pellin 71F. So 71 or 72F. It's fusible. I don't really use the fusible function of it, but some people do, and you definitely could. It's fusible in that you can iron on your paper like a pattern. If you wanted to do some floral designs and things like that, you can actually fuse the paper onto the Pellin. Some people put graph paper just so that they can, have it all evened out. So yeah, I don't really do anything where I'm fusing it, but it does have that function. So Pellin 71F, when I first started out, I was using felt, and it's not the best quality. It's hard to do, good beadwork on something that's so flimsy. So having, the right, it's pretty sturdy. You can get stiff felt and that's okay, but Pellin's great, and I really recommend getting Pellin for your projects. It makes it a lot easier and it makes the beadwork look a lot nicer. And so I really recommend. There's actually several different kinds of Pellin. And so when I first started out, I was using stiff felt, and then I found Pellin. It was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. It's so much easier to bead on. Then I tried buying my own Pellin. I didn't realize how many different kinds of Pellin there are. When I was looking for a supplier for Pellin, I was just looking up, what kind of Pellins to get. I went to Fabricland and I bought the wrong kind of Pellin, and it was really difficult to pass my needle through. So knowing exactly what kind of Pellin is really going to help you moving forward if you're just starting out with beading. Another thing that you're going to need and will be included, so these will be included in mini containers. This is the glue that you're going to use to glue down your gems. Gems are also included in the beading starter kit. So the gem is what you're going to bead around. So for example, this is really popular right now. So these are the matte cad centers. I'll be including a few different types of centers. So you'll be able to make a few different pairs of earrings in your starter kit. So you're going to need to glue your gems down, so for example, here's one. You use the glue to glue it down onto your Pellin. So this is the type of glue that you use. And you're going to need some leatherette backing. I'll be including some of that into the starter kits as well. And then there's the earring hooks and posts. So I'll give you an example of what those look like. So the most common type of earrings that you'll see are with hooks or posts and fingernail posts. These are what they look like. This is how you finish your earring. People usually have a preference whether they like the hook or the post. There's so many different types of hooks, and posts, but these are the two most common kinds. So I'll include some of these in everybody's starter kits. And, moving forward, you can try out different types of hooks and posts, but this is just what I'm going to include in the starter kits. So the other thing I'm going to include is some of the metal banding. So when I first started out, I was using the plastic banding. I don't really like it. I don't use it at all now. So my starter kits that I'm making are gonna have the metal banding included. So the most common type is like the gold or silver. I won't put a bunch of different colors in. I'll put a couple of yards of banding in everybody's starter kit, so you'll have enough to make a few pairs of earrings. And I'm really excited about this. I'm so excited to see what everybody's creations are, and I hope this video is helpful. I know when I was starting out, I really wish that there was a video out there to give me a list of all the things that I would need moving forward. It was really expensive and, you know, a lot of trial and error when I was starting out. So this will definitely help everybody out. And then of course there's going to be beads included in the kits. So these are not the beads specifically, but I've ordered a bunch of different colors, and they'll be in these 22-gram vials. So there'll be a few of these in each starter kit. So yeah, this is the beginning of something really great, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you everybody, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thank you everybody.